gardener, and I also play music. I play the piano, and I have an actual bachelor's degree in music education. So I was trained as a teacher in music, and then I also taught school. I taught in a college, a private college, not music. Then I taught my medical record information stuff, my health information management stuff. But I just wanted to say that, you know, if you want to do stuff yourself, as a gardener, you want to start your own beds and stuff, you can do that. It's not that hard to do as long as you know some basic things like, one, where are your electric lines, your water lines, your phone lines, your cable lines. So before you even start digging, have Miss Dig come out. That's what we have in the United States. Call Miss Dig. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything for them to come out. Wait for all the utilities to come out. They're going to come out. They're going to make marks on the ground or put flags in or those kinds of things to make sure that you know where exactly you can and cannot dig. I have, in my old house in the suburbs in Warren, I have dug through cable lines. I just put the shovel down and I was like, oh, it must be a root. And I pushed harder and it was a cable line that was leading to the house. So I have done that before. Out front of our current house in the country, there is a high pressure gas pipe that runs along that main road that we're on. And it's on our side of the road, and it's in the what they call the easement for the county. So when I put in my shrubs, somebody from the gas company actually had to be there. I mean, they marked where everything was, but they said somebody from the gas company needed to be there as I was digging and putting the shrubs in to make sure that I didn't accidentally rupture the line. You don't want to do that. That would be terrible. And especially if you're a new gardener and you start off wrecking something that you need for your house, that would be bad. So the first step is decide, figure out, contact, find out where all of your utility lines are, okay? The second step is find out where septic tanks are or wells are, whether they're current or they're old. You're going to need to know where septic systems have been and where they are, because you're not going to want to dig and damage your septic tanks or damage wells or damage pipes that lead to and from there. If it's an old septic tank, you're not going to want to plant food over your septic tank. It would be important to know where that is located so you do not plant your tomatoes or your potatoes or your greens or anything over the top of the septic tank. What can go over that area are like flowers, things you grow for the animals, short-rooted things that don't need a lot of water. Don't put any trees, nothing like that over the septic tank. So, 1, utilities. Where are they? 2, septic and well. Where are they? So they don't wreck something that way. 3, find the south part of your house. The south part of your land. That's going to give you the most sun all the time. Coming in right here on my face is the south winter sun. It's really low on the horizon. Really, really low. And it goes from east to west. So east to west, low on the horizon in the winter. So the south side of your house, the south side of your land is going to get the most sun for whatever garden you're going to plant. So 1, your utilities. 2, your sewer, or your septic and your well. 3, south part of your land. And that's going to give you the best sun exposure. Now, you might have to take a look and see, because some people on their south part of their land, they have trees growing, so it's going to provide some shade. That's okay. You have to see how far out the shade actually comes. Or you may have buildings all at the south side of your property, which would block the sun. And again, that's okay. See how far out in the winter that shade goes. Because in the summertime, man, there's like debris. There's debris all over this road. In the summertime, the sun does not do this like it does in the wintertime. In the summertime, as it gets warmer, the sun starts doing a different arc. In the middle of summer, the sun is directly overhead, nearly directly overhead. And it's going from east to west, nearly directly overhead. So the shadow from a building, see, like, okay, if I do this, so here's the shade on my face right there. The shadow from a building changes quite a bit because the angle of the sun then is past that building. It's further out. So the shade part goes smaller and smaller and smaller from a building, from a tree, from a structure, whatever it might be. And so that's important. The sunniest part you can find in your yard. But you also want to look for the most like steady part of your yard. You don't want it to be flooding, but you also don't want it to be bone dry. And you also want it to be as flat as you can get it. If you can't get flat, then you'll need to make like steps, like tiers to make them flat. So, if your soil is like, let's see, in Ann Arbor, we found the soil was like Play-Doh clay. It was that stuck together. So every time we dug a hole, we had to make it larger than the plant, take the clay out and remove it entirely, and then, oh, maybe you're going to turn, I don't want to turn with you. And then we would put in like compost or topsoil or whatever, backfill in around the plant so the plant has room to expand and eventually put its roots out into wherever it can get to. So clay soil, hard clay soil, can be very difficult to work with, and maybe that's a time for raised beds instead. Maybe that's a time for putting cardboard down and then putting compost and leaves and newspapers and clippings and logs and sticks and things in the middle, like in the hugelkultur type, versus trying to till clay soil and put nutrients in it, because it's going to be a mess. And no, you don't add sand to clay soil. Don't do that. The other part is if you have soil that is very shallow, like out where my brother lives in Washington State, they only have, I mean, there are some parts that only have like 6-7 inches of topsoil before they reach bedrock. So that makes it very difficult. Again, raising up the beds, raising up the soil level is going to help with a lot of things. If your land floods, you're going to have to raise it up some if you want to have any kind of garden beds in those areas, either with raised beds that are, maybe they're steel beds so water can't like wash things away, or maybe you put gravel and then you put sand and then you put your bedding materials and stuff up higher. You're going to elevate it so again the water doesn't wash it all away for you. All right, so you're doing your utilities, you're doing your septic and your well, you're doing your sun. Look for the sunlight, look for the medium, you know, it's as flat as you can get, but without being really wet or really dry. And then there are some trees you don't want to plant near or under, like a black walnut. A black walnut roots puts out this certain chemical that nothing else will grow underneath it. So everything you try to grow will die. If you rip out a shrub and you try to replace it with the same shrub, plants don't like to grow like that. They don't like to grow in the dead roots of their predecessors. That's another kind of technique to think about. So you're looking for your landmarks, you're looking for your sun, and then if you can, have water coming out to the area or capture water that you can use for doing that particular gardening. Because that's going to be really important. Mostly with your seeds and your seedlings or your new plants. You're going to want to get them established and going with water, with extra water, and not necessarily rain. Now farmers will do that. They will like till up the ground, they'll make trenches, they'll put their seeds in, and then they just rely on the rainwater. But if that's all they're using and we don't get rain, then their plants won't grow very well and the crops can fail. So they're relying on weather. But a gardener, someone who's actually going to do gardening, homesteading, if you're going to grow food for yourself and your family, you need to be able to moderate the water conditions in your area. So maybe that low-lying area, maybe you actually dig that out and make that a retention pond, so the rainwater will collect in there, and then maybe that's where you fill up watering cans, or you run a pipe with like a small pond pump, and then you can run the water to the plants that need it in your area, in your gardens. You can capture the rainwater off your houses, your sheds, your garages, with gutters, and you can contain it. There's catchment basins that you can put in and install to catch the rainwater. And rainwater is going to be the best water you can use. It's better than well water. Well water right out of the well, though, is from the ground. But because it's from the ground, it's also going to have whatever pollutants are in the ground. So if there's a factory nearby, if you live near a main road where there's like gas leaks and oil leaks and antifreeze leaks, all that water that goes into that groundwater, all the contaminants will go right in there, and you don't have much of a way to get rid of them, to screen them so they don't get there. And once you've decided where you want your things to go, you got to think about what kind of predators, what kind of animals live in the area, and how you can protect against the damage that they can do to whatever you're trying to grow. You would never have a newborn. Silly. You wouldn't bring it home like that and then just say, here you go. But a lot of people do the same thing with brand new plants or brand new gardens. Or I've heard people say, well, I'll just plant 2/3 extra. Why would you waste your time spending the resources, spending the money, spending the time, spending the energy, trying to put stuff in the ground if you're not going to protect it? So when you've decided where you want it to be and you kind of draw up a plan of what you want, you're going to have to think about protection somehow. And that's something I can help you with. I also can help you decide how much space you need. I always say start smaller than you think you need. If you can do 10 by 10 successfully and you're getting harvest from that, you could add 5 more feet the next year. You could add vertical structures that stuff can grow on to get more yield. But start with something small enough that you can manage it well. You're also going to want to put pathways through whatever you build. Whatever kind of gardens that you build, whatever kind of fields that you're going to maintain, you need pathways so you know where to step, your kids know where to step, the dog knows where to step, the cat knows where to step. Everyone stays on one pathway. That is the area that gets compressed. Everything else is loose and fluffy so the plants can put their roots down. No one is stepping on a plant because they didn't know it was planted there, because you're going to have indications about where things are supposed to be. They're borders, they're boundaries, they're good for you. They're good for your plants, they're good for your family, they're good for your mental health. So think ahead about this. A little bit ahead about this. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune. The other part is that when you're going to start a garden, if you wanted to plot it out right now, this would be a great time to do it. Take some stakes or sticks and some rope and stake it all out as far as where you think it should be, especially as long as you know where your utilities are already, your septic and your well, you know where all that is. Stake it all out and, look at it for a week and see what you think. Do you pass by that way often? Enough? Is it in your line of sight every day? Is it in your pathway every day so that you can maintain this plot in an easy fashion? Or are you planning to have it behind the garage where you're never going to see it until August, and you're going to go back there and the weeds are going to take over? Make it easy on yourself, okay? The other part of making it easy on yourself, if you decided to stake it out and look at it, is you could start your bed now. If that's where you decide you really want it, you don't have to put the protections up until you put plants in. So you can easily lay down cardboard right now on grass that you want. Instead of grass, you want a bed of whatever it is you're going to grow. You could easily lay cardboard down right now with rocks or bricks, or even they have like landscape pins that aren't not that expensive that poke the cardboard down. Then you could start piling leaves on there. You could start piling sticks on there. You could start piling clippings from trees or other people's trees. You could steal bags of leaves from neighbors or from suburbs. You could start putting kitchen scraps that you would like normally compost. You could start laying all that stuff out on that area right now, and allow the weather from the winter, especially up here in Michigan. We'll have plenty of rain and plenty of snow. Allow all that to soak into the ground. Allow that stuff to start breaking down. And what will happen under the cardboard is this grass is going to die off. And when it dies off, when it decays and dies off, it's actually going to like make fertilizer for the soil below it. You will also see worms start to come up, because if you pull the cardboard back, you would see worms underneath it. But you're going to see some things taking place in that space that is no longer grass. That's going to be amazing. And by the time the spring comes, as long as the cardboard has had all of like the plastic labels removed, that cardboard would be easy enough to poke a hole through and put a plant in. It also, cardboard, when you do it this way, and I would not put multiple layers. I would not do that. I would do like a single layer of cardboard, whatever area, 10 by 10, if you can start that small. If you can start, with that size. The cardboard is also going to smother all the weeds for a long time. You could put wood chips on there. You could put non-colored mulch on there, like if you had cedar chips, if you had pine chips, if somebody's chopping up a tree, and you can grab some of those, you can put those on top too. So the cardboard is smothering the grass, but it's also smothering any weed seeds that would have been in the grass or that fall onto there. The weed seeds can't get to soil. And as long as the weed seeds are up on the upper level, they can't get into soil to make roots. They're not going to be able to grow, at least not for that first year. So that's something else you can do. So you map it out. You can start it. You can plan out what you're going to plant. You can put that on paper. Why not? Why not? Put it on paper or get a dry erase marker. Put it on a whiteboard. If you don't have a whiteboard, use your bathroom mirror, for goodness sake. Do something. Start thinking ahead. Okay, how many tomatoes can we reasonably eat? How many cucumbers could we eat? How many peas? How many carrots? Okay, I don't want anything but watermelons. Okay, well, how many watermelons could you plant and how big of an area? How much space do these things need? You could think ahead about that and start writing it down so that you can say, I have these seeds, I don't have these seeds. Sally has these seeds and I have these seeds, so maybe she'll switch with me. I could go to the grocery store, or I could go to a farmer's market. If it says organic, go to a farmer's market and you may be able to get seeds right from that produce that you could plant later on, and they may do okay. But this is the time of, no, you're not necessarily out there working in the garden. You're definitely not having to weed. You're not going to have to till. You do not have to be breaking ground. Let the ground do its work for you. Just make it easy for the ground to do what it needs to do. But planning ahead, how many of what do you want to grow? And then you have to just figure out when you're supposed to plant them, and under what conditions. For example, peas, if you try to grow peas and you don't have at least a short trellis, it doesn't have to be tall, it could be like a foot tall. If you don't have a short trellis for those peas to grow up, they're all going to be floppy. It's going to be hard to find them. The same with beans. There's different types of beans, like bush beans or pole beans. Pole beans is really easy to find the beans if it's on a trellis. Bush beans are harder. You got to move them around. You got to flip them around. You might have, and maybe you want a raised bed. Got back issues, or you're in a wheelchair, or it's hard for you to bend over and you want a raised bed. You could build a raised bed right now and put it in the spot that you want it to be in. Right now, you can still go to the nurseries. Ray Wiegand's on Romeo Plank has, and they don't sponsor me. I sponsored them because I go there so often. But they still have topsoil, composted manure, peat moss, all those other things that you think you might need for making a raised bed or making a current garden bed, or making one for the future, for the spring. So all you have to do then is either plant the seeds, plant the seedlings, plant the starts, and be on your way. This is also the time to get rain barrels, if at all possible. I've seen them on Facebook Marketplace for like $35. Then they would come just with the rain barrel itself, like just the container, and maybe they don't have the spigot yet, but you can buy the spigots online, like through Amazon, for pretty cheap. And I think the last spigot I bought, it was like, I think it was like $5. And then you drill a hole for the size of the spigot, and you just thread the spigot in, and bam, there you go. Now you have a rain barrel that can be right at the bottom of any of your gutters. Super simple to install. In the spring. Don't catch rain right now in the rain barrels, because what'll happen is they'll fill up, the water will freeze and expand, and it'll pop your rain barrel either out this way, or the bottoms will get rounded out like a Humpty Dumpty, like a weeble wobble, and they'll fall over. So don't collect rain right this second, but do start collecting rain barrels. So in the spring, when it's not going to freeze, you can have all of that fresh water that your plants really, 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 really thrive on. This is also a time that you can look around to see your views out your windows, your views from your backyard, your views from your patio where you spend time. If you don't like your views, you can change them. If you're sick of looking at your neighbor's garage, you can change it. If you don't want to see your neighbor's garbage cans, you can change that. You can't change what they're doing, but you can change the views that you have from your windows, from your vantage points. And that's something I can help you with as well. At any time during any of these processes, you can contact me. I can come out. We can do a consultation. Yes, I'm looking at like my yard right now in the front. Everything, there's like no green left. Everything is like dry. It's for the fall. It's for the winter. And I have all the plants still up because I want all the seeds there for the wildlife. That's basically why I planted out front. But your yard probably looks similar. You probably still have some plants and shrubs standing, and I can identify what kinds of things you have and then help you decide what you might want to do for the spring. And I can break it up step by step by step. I can explain the whys behind things. I don't like to just say, do this, do that, do this. I like to give you explanations about why I recommend this, and then this, and then this. I like to explain that, and I will explain it as often or as little as you want. And I put it in written form for you so that when you are ready, you can take the next steps that I might recommend. When you're ready, when you get your tax refund back, you could do this. When you, I don't know, if you get a raise in the spring and you want to build some garden beds, I can tell you where that is. If you want to build your own raised garden beds, I could coach you through that as well. So, yeah. So steps in the garden planning, it's not hard, but it is organized. There is a process for as far as having successful gardens. And a lot of it is advanced work. The stuff when you have the good location and you have the decent soil, it doesn't have to be expensive soil. You have the good location, the decent soil, and you've thought ahead about what you're going to plant. It's really not that hard. And you give them room, give them enough room that they need to grow well. It's not hard. And when you have fresh soil, you don't tend to have a lot of weeds. But even then, you can mulch with newspaper to keep the weeds down, with clean straw, not hay, straw, because it doesn't usually have seeds. You could mulch with compost. 2 to 3 inches of compost are generally not going to have many weed seeds at all. And if they do, they're going to be so small that when you're in there, you can just kind of dig them with your fingers, dig them out, they're gone. So it's not hard for upkeep. And if your water source is nearby, and especially if it's rainwater, your plants, that's what they want. They crave rainwater. They don't crave city water. They don't crave well water. They don't crave softened water. They crave well water. And that's not the stuff out of your hose necessarily. But if you're giving them what they need, they're just going to grow. and they're in the right conditions, they're just going to grow. That's all they want to do. And then you get the benefit of harvesting them. Again, providing you have protected your gardens as well. That's really important, super important. So you get everything all set up, kind of like a newborn. When you set up the nursery before the newborn comes home, before the baby's due, you kind of have a space for everything, and everything in its place in its space, and your chances of success are going to be a little bit higher. Hopefully. So anyway, that is all. I've been doing a lot of talking today. That's all right. I've been out in the sunshine, and that's okay too. So I got to go back to my regular job that pays for everything right now. And love you guys. Learn and grow some more. And I will chat at you later. Bye.